Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andrea Thomas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Welcome, beautiful souls, to a new episode on Spiritual Changemakers. Today, I'm coming to you with my biggest lessons from Mindvalley University. If you have been following my journey, if you have been following me on Instagram, then you know that I have spent 3 weeks in Estonia, Tallinn, at Mindvalley University. So I'm excited to share with you today my biggest insights on what I have learned, what I have experienced, the magic from Mindvalley University. And today's podcast, it's called Embracing the Power Within and Unveiling the Magic of Mindvalley University. And stay tuned because this is only part one. I'm planning to do a trilogy of episodes where I'm going to share different type of things. And today we are going to dive deep into manifestation, money, and boundaries. So just bring your favorite blanket, your cup of tea or coffee, depending when you're listening to this episode, and join me to explore the magic of self-discovery and empowerment. And I want to give you just a little bit of background of what Mindvalley even means to me, because I always tell everyone that Mindvalley is the catalyst of my personal transformation. I have discovered Mindvalley back in 2017 when I have embarked on my personal development journey, on my healing journey. And I remember doing the first ever quest from them, which was called Limitless. And doing that quest, it just like opened my mind and opened my horizon of what is possible. And ever since I discovered Mindvalley, I have joined several of their events in Los Angeles, in Dubai, but I've always dreamed of being able to go to Mindvalley University to immerse myself in this experience of 3 weeks. And I finally did it. It was a manifestation that finally came through for me. And when I arrived there, I knew it that it's going to be hard to choose which classes, which workshops, what experiences, where am I going to do, what am I going to choose? Because there were so many things that you could do at once. Imagine it was like in this big, huge building, and they were going between 3 and 4 different classes and workshops at once. So I always had like that constant FOMO. I'm like, oh my God, what should I choose? But then I decided to make a choice and ask myself, okay, what is it that it's really important for me at this moment? What type of subject? And then I dialed it down to business, to public speaking, and manifestation. So I dialed it down to this subject. And of course, spirituality, because that's such a big part of my life, no? So I made sure I joined some really immersive experiences around spirituality. But then every single time when a class would go on, then I knew it. I'm like, okay, is this on business? Is this in speaking? Or like which one of the areas that I'm interested in? That made me experience a class without feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on the other one, because I knew I made a choice. And I have spoke with you before about the power of intention and how powerful it is when we decide on what we want, when we make that intention of what we want to experience, because then you are not going to feel disappointed. And I have break down today's episode in a few segments. And the first segment I want to share with you is around how do we lead with the heart of Buddha. This is one of the workshops I have joined. She was a host at Mindvalley where he introduced a lot of speakers, including Vishen Lakiani, who is the founder of Mindvalley. And he did a talk which was leading with the heart of Buddha. And that talk for me was so profound. And I will share with you some of the biggest takeaways I have from this talk, but also a very powerful experience, a spiritual experience I got to have while I was there. And what I have learned in this workshop, in this experience, one of the things was that we were invited to do a meditation, to close our eyes, and then in the center of our heart, to bring on one person or a pet, something that we deeply love, that like we love profoundly. And then I have decided to bring on my partner who has passed away. And I saw him how he was like a few days before he passed. And the reason he was brought to me in that image, it was because in those last few days, few weeks, he was pure love. That's what he was all emanating. So because of that, I brought that image from his past few days here on earth into my heart. And then I was feeling it so strongly. And I remember while we were guided through that meditation that I started crying because I was feeling his presence so strong. And after the meditation ended, the person on my right, she looked at me and he's like, "Oh my God, what have you done? Like, who have you brought into your heart if you're okay to share? Because your energy was so strong that it took over me. It took over my whole energy." And he said, when I was imagining my grandma and my dog to bring them into the center of my heart, he said, "You came into that image and you are so strong that I couldn't remove you. I couldn't put you on the side." And then I shared with him my story very briefly, and that touched him so much. And we shared this profound moment, which was so healing and so spiritual for both of us. And he thanked me for feeling the way I'm feeling and for sharing with him my story. So that was one of the most beautiful experiences I would say that I've had during Mindvalley. Another beautiful reminder that we have received during this workshop was the importance of us remembering about our innate goodness. Because it's so easy to constantly look on the outside, to look for answers, to search for answers, to also admire other people and really forget about our own gift, our own goodness. So here, he invited us to look at ourselves like from the eyes of our best friend. And when we do that, to ask ourselves, what are my gifts? What are my gifts? And then write that down. So I want to invite you right now, when you are listening to this podcast, to pause and imagine you're looking at yourself as you would look at a friend. And then looking at that friend to be like, what are the gifts of this person? And by doing that, it's going to help you discover more of your innate goodness. And after that, he shared with us a beautiful concept, which is called meta. And as I shared at the beginning, like all these principles and concepts, they come from the Buddha world, yes. So the meta concept, what it means is that you're going to give blessings to everything and everyone around yourself, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And you want to say, may you be happy, may you be free of suffering, and may you be loved. So you want to say these three things. May you be happy, may you be free of suffering, may you be loved. So this is one way to use the meta concept. And another prayer that I use a lot, I don't know, it's called blessings, I think. I've learned it on another course. What I do whenever I meet a person or when I enter a room, I love to bless everyone. And the way I do it, I'm saying that I am blessing you with pure light and love. I'm blessing you with the purest source energy. And I made this a habit that no matter where I go, no matter who I meet, I love to bless people and places around me. Now, on the other segment, what I want to share with you is the dance of manifestation, energy and money. So, here I want to give you some really powerful concepts that I have learned around money. And the class here that I have joined is called Mindful Manifestation. And here is where we have learned to bless other people's goals. And really, not just that, but to look at the currency, at money, as energy and how the emotions they are actually transferred. Because every monetary exchange, either that we pay something or we receive money, like we pay or we receive, is not just the physical value, but it also has a profound energetic transfer. And because of that, it's very important to bless our money and our assets and to clear them. So I'm going to share with you right now, how can we do that? How can we bless money and how can we clear them so we are able to receive more abundance and more money in our life? So one of the blessings that you can say in order to allow more abundance and for money to circulate and multiply, it's to say, let this money come back multiple ways. So every single time when you pay something, when you give money, whatever it is, when you make a donation, say, let this money come back to me multiple ways. Or another way you can bless money is to say, let this money be used for all the right purposes. So to make sure when you give money away, when you pay something, that those money are going to be used in the right way. So those are two ways that you can bless money. And now, how do we go about clearing money? It's very important to clarify and purify your money and your assets. So we elevate its energetic signature. So in order to clear money, you can say all the negative energies, all lower emotions, the stress and power energies to be completely removed from this money. And then you want to do a monthly ritual where you are going to print your bank statements. And she really specified to us that having like that physical, the tangible statement in your hands, it is much more powerful than trying to do the clearing like on an online bank account. So print your bank statements and then clear your assets. So that's a way to bless and clear your money. Then I want to move to a very powerful, and I would say one like super high level workshop with Regan Healer. If you have heard, she's like one of the queen of the manifestations. And there she has taught us how to bend time to craft your dreams faster. So to bring your dreams into reality even faster. And she has shared with us multiple stories on how she has done that, how she has built. I think she said she has around 5 businesses at the moment. So, how she has built multiple businesses at once. And she has the age of 33 years old, exactly like me. And one way that she attributed to that, to build multiple businesses and be a millionaire or a billionaire, something like that, she attributed to bending time. So it's a very important factor in our life in order to manifest faster what we desire. And she shared with us how one of the key takeaways was that time is multi-dimensional and it's not linear, how it has been presented to us so far, how we have seen it, that we are taught in the society. And also that our internal game, so the inner work we do, the meditations, the visualizations, all these things, they are 80% of our manifestation. And then 20% is the doing. So if until this point you have been doing maybe 90%, 100%, you have been focusing on the doing and you haven't really been focusing on the inner work, then the invitation here is to switch that. Because I also want to bring in here the concept of be, do, have, where the majority of people, they are wishing to manifest, to have things into their lives by just doing. So they want to have, they want to have, they want to have by doing. And then they're going to be like, then they're going to be happy. Then they're going to be satisfied. Then they're going to be fulfilled. Then they're going to feel free, whatever it is. So the invitation, it's like to switch it and to ask yourself, who do I have to be? Because we are or we are not a vibrational match for what we desire. So who do we have to be in order to have whatever it is that you desire, like a happy relationship, a successful business, to move to a new country, to travel the world, whatever it is that you desire. So this is where I want to emphasize on the importance of doing the inner work. And she shared with us a lot of different techniques on how we can bend time, how we can play with time. And one of them was time boxing, and another one was time looping. And these things, these techniques can actually help us reshape our relationship with time. So the first one, time boxing, what does it do? It involves focusing on just one task at a time. And how do you do that? You're gonna just set your time. Let's say you want to do a piece of content, you want to cook, whatever it is, the task itself, just one task. And then you're gonna set a timer for 30 minutes or an hour. You decide how long it is that you want to work on that task. And then while you are going to work on that task, you are not going to look at the time. So you block your time everywhere else and you set the timer. So you set the timer. And then at the end, like when the timer comes up, you want to look at your experience with that task and ask yourself, how was my experience with time? Did I feel that I had more time than in general? Do I feel that the time passed faster? So it's like getting accustomed and really seeing how easy that it's your experience with time. And then the more you do this, the more you are going to be able to influence your relationship with time and change it. So this is time boxing. Then the other tool she shared with us is time looping. And what it means, it involves examining our beliefs and relationship with time. So it's very important to shift how we relate to time, how we talk about time in order to manifest our desires faster. So if you constantly find yourself saying, oh my God, I don't have enough time, there is never enough time, times go by so fast, then what you actually do, you gonna manifest more of that into your life because your relationship with time at that moment is that I just don't have enough time. And guess what? The majority of people find themselves saying that because we do live in a time where we are constantly distracted, where there is constantly something else, something new, something more to do. And it just feels that there is not enough time to do everything. And the reason for that is because we want to do too much at once. We want to accomplish too many things at once. And Regan also gave us a formula on how we can bend time. And she shared with us that where we put the intention with the frequency, that equals with bending time, with shifting time. And what it means. So we have the intention of like working on certain goals. We have the intention of having a better relationship with time. And then it's our frequency. And that, what is that? It's our vibrational frequency because we are like a radio station. And based on where we tune, we are going to attract certain things, certain thoughts. So it's very important to be in tune with us and pay attention on what radio station am I tuning in right now? Is it a radio station that um, helps me, that empowers me, that makes me feel better, that makes me feel positive, that I am actually attracting what I desire? Or am I tuning in into a frequency, a radio station that it just keeps me stuck, keep me in a low vibration, keeps me into the same loops, patterns that I used to be? And remember that you have the power to shift that, and you have the power to choose at any given moment on which frequency are you going to tune into. And manifestation, like intentional manifestation, because I want to put very clearly there intentional manifestation, because I do believe we manifest at any given moment, every single day. But when it's intentional, that means you manifest more of what you want. And the reminder here is that intentional manifestation, it's a lifestyle, okay? And it's not just about asking for one thing, but you can actually focus on multiple goals at once and manifesting multiple goals at once. And it's very important to cultivate a mindset of abundance and gratitude no matter where you're at in your life, no matter what you do, there is always something to be grateful for. And when you cultivate this mindset of abundance and gratitude, then it's very important to take the action towards your desires. Because, yes, it is 80% inner work, but 20% is action. So if you just are on the other side of spectrum, maybe you are very much into your feminine, where you're like, oh, I'm just going to meditate, to manifest, and so on, but you don't go out there and take the action, then the universe is not going to be able to help you, because it is a co-creation. This is how we manifest our desires, and we get to live our best life, because you take a step and the universe takes a step. And this is when you co-create and you come to be in this beautiful flow in a life. So it's the combination between the masculine and the feminine energy. And then the next segment I want to share with you is from Paul McKenna. And he is working with hypnosis a lot. And he actually just started recently like a new hypnosis quest on Mindvalley. And what he shared with us, he had like 3 parts on how to become rich in one day. And it was like 2 hours each. So it was a lot. So I am going to share with you some of the biggest takeaways I took from those 6 hours or so. But he shared with us insights on what does it mean to be rich. And rich, it doesn't mean like having necessarily lots of money, but it's about having a rich life. Because there are so many people, when you look at the world itself, there are so many people who are having a lot of money, who are very wealthy from that perspective, but they are still poor from all these other angles, like spiritually, from their family, from brands. They don't have a community friend. So what we want to do and what we want to accomplish in life, it's like being rich on all levels, like financially, and having a beautiful family, and on all levels of our life, not just money. And he shared with us the law of sympathetic resonance. And what that means is that like attracts like. That's why you see rich people hanging out with rich people. You see people that are into personal development coming together. And because these people, they share common values and are also in similar uh, frequency, in a similar energetic frequency. So like attract like. And also, a very important, the 80-20 rule that we can see now throughout this podcast episode, that is pretty common. He shared with us that 80% of the money you make comes from 20% of your references, from 20% of your actions. So the 80-20 rule, because so many times we go about and we do all these different things, maybe in order to accumulate more money. But in fact, if you like take a step back and you look from a higher, bigger perspective, you are going to realize that, actually, the money I create, the wealth that I have, and how rich I am, it comes from just these like very few actions that I'm taking on a daily basis, and from who am I being every single day. And he really like put the emphasis on the importance of having a purpose, and that having a purpose, it's good for mental health. And he reminded us that money is just energy, and our thoughts can create money. So think about, like, I know he did a hypnosis with us. He did an exercise where he took us into a meditative state. And then he told us to go and visualize our bank account, however you visualize it. And then to just multiply and keep adding more and keep adding more and keep adding more until you get to, I don't even know how much we got to, like millions. And he said, see, like how much can you even hold in your body? How much can you hold energetically? Because so many times we believe we want more, we believe we want more money, but when you check that with your body, within your body and with your energy, you realize that you have a cap, a ceiling cap there. So it's important to check and see which one is your cap, and then how can you expand that. And then when it comes about goal, like it's so important to set your goals based on your values. Because if you don't do that, and if you're not even in touch with, but what are my values? What is it that it's important to me? What you might end up doing, it's actually chasing some goals and chasing a life that it's not even yours, but you're doing because the society told you that the most important thing is to have a good job and to have stability and to have that much money. And when you have that, you're going to be happy. And if you have already accomplished things in your life, which I am sure you did, you already know that just by achieving certain goals that you took on from society, friends, or family, you know they're actually not going to make you happy or fulfilled. And this is where I remember after I moved to United States in 2014, one of my goals was like, I want to be financially independent and I want to travel the world. So that was one of my things. And I told myself, when I'm going to have $100,000 in my bank account, I am going to be able to do it and I'll be happy and fulfilled and satisfied. And I went on that quest to make $100,000. So I have worked my ass off, two jobs for 4 years. And then at the end, after I have accomplished that, I was looking at my bank account and I was like, I don't feel anything different than how I felt before. And the reason for that is because just chasing something, but without being in touch with your values, is not going to change anything. And then I asked myself, what is the reason that I'm even working so much? I'm working like crazy and I have no life. All I do is work. Like, how long do I want to continue this type of life? Is this the life I want to create? And then I realized that no. And I started making shifts. I started quitting one of the jobs. I started getting more into personal development. Slowly, I started my business and I started getting more in touch with what is it that's important for me. So if you're not sure what are your values, what is important to you, I want to invite you right now to pause this podcast and write down whatever it is that comes to you. And I'm going to give you some examples of what is it that's very important to me, hoping this is going to inspire you to get more in touch with what's important for you. And for me, one of the first things is freedom. And it's freedom of being location independent, to be able to work from anywhere. And that's one of the reasons why I have my business, my online business. So freedom with time to be able to make my own schedule. Another one of my values is deep connections. I do not just want to have surface level friendships, surface level connections. I am at a stage in my life where I want deep connections. So I prefer to have less close friends, but those that I have, I know they are very meaningful and very deep relationships that I have. Another one of my values is growth. It's so important for me to constantly grow, to learn something new. It like sets my soul on a fire when I'm learning new things, when I'm doing new things. And the last one that I want to share with you is impact. Yes, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I started my business, because I know my mission here on earth is to have a big impact. Like, I know I'm here to be a catalyst, to be a disruptor, to change the coaching industry, change how we look at the world, how we perceive the world, what we think is possible. So to make like this huge impact in the world. And I have like goosebumps saying that, because these uh, that I just shared with you are like some of my biggest values. And now just take a moment and write down what are your values, and then ask yourself, okay, based on these values, what are my goals? What goals do I want to accomplish? And then Paul suggested us to ask ourselves, how can we add value to the world and make money from it? And then it's very important to have a well team. So the people that we surround ourselves, because we want to surround ourselves with people that we can learn from, we can grow with, because they might have certain skills that we don't have, but we want to surround ourselves with those type of people. And finally, he shares with us 5 steps on how you can become more rich. And the first step is to choose something that you are passionate about. So you want to be passionate, because if you are not passionate about, when the hard time is going to come, and it is going to come, that's inevitable, then you are going to give up. And it's going to be so easy to give up, because you're like, oh, it's not really worth it, because you don't have the passion, which is the fuel behind you taking the action, you achieving that goal. So that's the first step. The second one is to add value. As I just shared earlier, like, how can you add value with your passion? Because it's all about solving people's problems, helping people have a better life. And you can do that through so many different ways. There are like so many different opportunities and possibilities in the world that you can do that through. It's not just one way or the best way. It's really about finding what what is that spark into your heart? What sets you on fire? Then the third step is to just imagine how would your business or your job, because it doesn't necessarily need to be a business, but how would they work? So then you want to imagine that. And the fourth step is to evaluate risks, which is very important. And how do you even evaluate risk? It means that you want to give it an upside and a downside. So you want to look at, okay, having this business, having this job, whichever venture you're going to go on to, you want to look like, what is the best possible outcome? And then you also want to look at the downside. What is the worst that can actually happen? So you have both in your mind, into your awareness. And the fifth step, which is a very important one, it's to take massive action. As we have previously talked about action, we know it is not enough, guys. I know you are on a spiritual podcast here, and I highly encourage everyone to utilize and bring spirituality in their life. But it is just not enough just to visualize and meditate your way towards your goals. It is important to take massive action. Okay. Can you promise me that you're going to take massive action? Yes. Okay. Okay. I believe you. I know. I heard you. I heard you saying that promise. And now, the last thing I want to share with you in this podcast amazing episode is how do we craft boundaries? How do we uh, create conscious boundaries? And this is actually a workshop that I ended up doing at Mindvalley because of my roommate that she was sharing with me how much she is struggling with boundaries. And then I also had a friend who came to me and he's like, "Oh my God, Andrea, you are so good with boundaries. You're like amazing," because I have placed my boundaries with him and with quite a few other people at my valley. Like, you're so great with boundaries. And I had at least 4 people tonight coming over, coming to me and just sharing with me how much they struggle with boundaries. And he's like, "You should do a talk or a workshop on it." And I'm like, "Okay." He literally told me today to do a workshop, and then I put it together. And the next day, I have done a workshop on conscious boundaries. And just for the sake of the length of the podcast, if I would go very deep into this subject right now, I would probably take another hour or so. So I just want to give you a short overview and pretty much what are boundaries. And boundaries are just an embodiment of self respect and just self care, and where we nourish our relationships and our personal well being. And the reason we place boundaries in our life, it's because we care about us. Yes, first and foremost, we care about our well being. And then we care about our relationships. We care about the relationships in our life. So we want to really look at why is it that so many people struggle with boundaries? And I can tell you from my own experience that I struggled for a very long time. And the biggest reason behind that, it was people pleasing, because I didn't want to upset anyone and I didn't want to hurt anyone. But what's happening when we do that? Then we make the other person and the other person's feelings more important than ours. And not just that, but we also look at the other person as they're not powerful enough to deal with my no, to deal with my boundaries. So we also see them as being weak. And that's why when we place boundaries and they come from a conscious way, when we take responsibility on how we even share those boundaries, yes, because it's very important the way you share and when you share your boundaries, what does that is doing? It's actually deepening your relationship with the right people, because not everyone is going to be able to take your boundaries. And the way I started looking at it, I was like, okay, if this feels uncomfortable for me, if this doesn't feel good, whatever the situation was within a relationship, I have two choices right now: to speak my truth and share from a place of love what it is that feels good, what it is that feels comfortable, and what are my boundaries in this relationship. Or I have the choice of not communicating that, of holding it to myself. And then I am probably going to avoid that person. I am going to avoid that relationship because I just don't feel good. So, pretty much, you don't even give a chance to the other person to be closer to you, to go deeper with you in the relationship because you haven't communicated your needs and your desires. And so many times people don't know what they don't know. And that's why communicating your boundaries, it is so crucial if you care of having deep and conscious relationships with those around you. And I also want to put it out there that if you guys would like me to do a more in-depth podcast episode on conscious boundaries or a workshop on it online where you can join at any time, just comment on my Instagram, pop up on my Instagram and send me a DM on at I am Andrea Thomas, and just send me a DM with conscious boundaries. And in that way, I know I will do something that you're really interested and that would really serve you and help you grow. And this is what I wanted to share with you today from the first part from Mindvalley University. I cannot wait to come back and share with you more of the magic I have experienced. And oh my God, there is so much more to share. It was so hard to choose, even for this podcast episode. What is it that I'm going to share? So I have so much more to share with you. And on the next few episodes, I'm planning to share with you on my biggest teachings and insights that I had around business from Mindvalley and then public speaking. So those are two main things that I am going to share with you on the future episodes. So stay tuned, follow the podcast, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in, for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share, please leave a comment, leave us a review, and come and say hi. Come and say hi. So I know you're out there. I know you exist. And oh, thank you. And do not forget that I appreciate you. I believe in you and I love you. Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self, and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.